Come closer. Come closer. What's up to all my lovely people out there? I am author Octavia D. Mason, giving you the best practical writing tips, resources to build a strong novel, and confidence to write your story. Today, I'm talking to you about a book that I read as a child that has inspired me to write my book, The Kingdom of Light. But before we get to that, I'm going to give you a little bit of a tour of my bookshelf because it is moving day. Well, not necessarily moving day. It is a day that I need to pack for moving day. So I am going to pack my bookshelf, tell you a little bit about what I have going on here. So let's get to it. I guess I should tell you how I have my bookshelf laid out. So right here are all of my, it's a little messy. I'm not gonna pretend that it's not. I'm not gonna pretend that it's not. But it's a little messy. On this shelf, I have all of my not I don't want to say self-help books because I don't read those. More so of instructional books rather. I have a lot of instructional books, a lot of I actually don't know what this book is. This is called Boy Meets Girl Say Hello to Courtship. I don't know where I got this book from. I don't even know why it's on my shelf. But it's here and I probably will give it away. But anywho, so I have various books. I have YouTube Secrets by Sean Cannell. This is his first edition. I hear that he has a second edition out. So kudos, I guess, to him. YouTube Secrets. YouTube Secrets. I have a little sticky note on it. I think I read this in 2020. I want to say 2020. But I have books like that on this section. And what else? Just other various books that I probably won't read or have not read, or I have read once, and that's about it, and they're instructional. On this shelf right here, I have books like Illuminate, Allegiant, Time Travel's Rife, The Mortal Coil, 4, and Legend. So this is my, I tried to make it a little bit of a dystopian cubby. This is my dystopian young adult fictional cubby right here. And so right here I have all of my I actually don't know what this shelf is really. I tried to create a shelf that is for my books that are about biographies. And I have a memoir, which is one of my favorite books. It's called The Hands of My Father. It is about a coda, a child of a deaf adult, and his name is Myron Oldberg. So it is his story about what it was like to grow up with two parents who are deaf, even though he is hearing. I absolutely love the story. It wasn't until I read this book that I realized that memoirs could sound like beautiful contemporary fictional literature, you know? And so if you want to read a book about someone who has a different experience than you growing up as a child who have parents who are deaf, this one is a go-to. This one is a go-to. And I have collections of poetry. Emily Dickinson, she is one of my favorite poets. I love her stuff. And of course, is that, let's see what that does. There we go. I have a bookmark from I believe it's a Shakespearean quote. I would challenge you to a battle of wits, but I see that you are unarmed. Haha. Huzzah. And this is my little sculpture. There's a story behind this. I tried to I tried to create a candle holder. Okay, so I am an artist. This this may not depict that quite well, but I am an artist, and so I was in ceramics, and I tried to create a candle holder, but that part, the top part broke off, and I was left with the bottom part. I have the top part actually right here. So this is what I was going for. Let me zoom in. This is what I was going for as a candle holder, and that little part right here didn't quite turn out the best. It got a little thin at the top or too thick, or I just didn't like it. I don't remember exactly how it happened, but this came off. And so now I use this as decor. This is my classic literature section right here. So Never mind this. This goes somewhere else. This is Replay. Apparently, it is a classic time travel novel. So I have Lord of the Rings. The Wind Done Gone is a play off of Gone with the Wind. Have not read it yet. I have, what is this? Pride and Prejudice. And then I have 3 copies of Jane Eyre because I love Jane Eyre. I believe it is one of the most beautiful stories ever written. In that time, they talked about God in a very realistic way that was close to heart for them. And so I love to read Jane Eyre and to hear what the main character has to say about God and how that is intertwined in her daily life, but also to see the romance between her and Mr. Rochester. And I just love it. For some reason, it kind of reminds me of the story of Belle. Jane Eyre kind of has that same fire and compassion as the woman as Belle in the movie Belle. If you haven't watched it, watch it. It's a lovely story. Here's my favorite copy. This is my favorite copy of Jane Eyre. It is beautiful. You're going to see me awkwardly reaching throughout this entire video. Look at that. That's beautiful. And that gold. Love it. I haven't read from this version yet. And the pages, oh my gosh, the pages are so beautiful. Look at that. The way it shimmers. The way it shimmers. And a few other books that I have picked up but not actually read. But I have read 1984. And put it in front of my face. See if that catches it. 1984, George Orwell. Great depiction of what it looks like when Big Brother takes over. Now, this section right here is one of my favorite sections. I have not merged this section with another genre. So I have just about, these are my old Christian fiction books that I read when I was in college about, I don't know, 7 years ago. I think that's when I was in college. But anywho, so I have Irene Hannon. I love a good mystery Christian fiction. So I have Irene Hannon, The Negotiator. I actually never finished a D. Henderson book, but that is an entirely different story. I have Danny Petrie, D. Henderson, some more. For the author I don't actually read, I have a good bit of her books. Actually, I take that back. I have merged it. I've merged it right there. Right there. That is not a Christian fiction book. But, and then I have The Shack right there. And let's move on to another one of my favorite sections. It is my thriller suspense section. I have John Grisham, of course. He's a Mississippian. I have a lot of John Grisham. A lot of John Grisham. And then I have Frank Peretti and Ted Decker's House. If you've seen the movie, which I saw first before I read the book, and I was like, wow, this is a fantastic movie. You got to read the book. I finished this book, I want to say, in one weekend, and it was just epic. Absolutely epic. 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 I said epic. Epic. And down there, miscellaneous stuff. I have my book, of course, down there, because that's the book that I edited, not based off of how I feel about the book. So that is like the briefest tour of my bookshelf. Actually, I didn't show you what's at the tippity top. I have a sculpture that I bid on at an art show that a school was doing for their children. So the students, they created all of these various sculptures. There was necklaces, there were masks, there was just beautiful collages. And I bid on that sculpture and I won. And it is a lovely sculpture. I kind of am drawing inspiration for it in my work in progress AJ installments right now because one of my characters' little tidbit about AJ installments is that they are an artist and this is one of the things that they see in an art gallery. And I'm drawing a little bit of inspiration from the dancing couple. Of course, the group, the Kingdom of Light, and of course, why not have my books at the top? Because I love me. I want to thank me for being me. And I have what will be the book from my childhood that inspired me as a writer. Gone with the Wind. What? How did I say Gone with the Wind? I meant the Gone series by Michael Grant is one of my favorite series. I got the box collection. Well, my friend gifted me the box collection, and it is one of my favorite series. Why? Because it is about young kids who are in this town, and then all of a sudden, all the parents, anyone who is 15 years of age and older, begins to disappear, and then a dome somehow surrounds itself over the town. And these children, 14 years and below, are stuck in a town. And guess what else happens? They get superpowers. And not just, I can fly superpowers. There are villains and there are heroes. And the villains have powers that turn them into atrocious monsters, powers that gives this one kid this like serpent like hand. And of course the villainous children begin to terrorize the heroic children. And there is one kid named Sam. Sam has light powers. He literally shoots out light, like a green, lime green light from his hands. And so it's just a crazy story of these children trying to fight and survive in a world that none of them could have ever imagined that they would find themselves. And as I was reading this, I had my sister actually began this series. She read the first book, and I think this is one of the times where I kind of snuck the book away from her and I began reading it myself. And so after I read the first book, I was completely down to read every single book. So I just read and I read and I read and I finished, and it became one of my best series. But how did this inspire me in my writing? How did this help me become the writer I am? Well, you don't see too many stories where there are multiple perspectives. And Gone series, they do a beautiful job of taking these five different kids from these different parts of the city and town, and we get to see their story throughout the entire series. We start with Sam, but in the next chapter we encounter this girl named Lana, I believe is her name, and she gets into this terrible accident in chapter 2. And I was amazed by that because I see the story start off with people disappearing, all the 15-year-old and older people disappearing. And I am like, oh my gosh, what happens next? And then what happens next in the next chapter is about someone else who is not a part of this area where Sam and his friend are, but Lana is on another part of the city, and we get to experience what it was like for her to have a parent disappear right there in front of her, which causes her to get into an accident. And then we jump to someone else who loses that person who's 15 years and older. And I thought to myself at that moment, this is amazing. I am experiencing five different perspectives within the same world. So it was Gone that helped me to actually get a chance to experience what it was like to see multiple lives taking place at the same time. And as you guys may or may not know, I have a book called The Kingdom of Light. If you don't know this, which you probably don't, because I don't know if I've often expressed it, but The Kingdom of Light is the first story that I actually wrote. I was forced to take this creative writing class in high school, and somehow, some way, we had a lesson about writing a story. And so I wanted to create a story of a kid with superpowers because I had read about a story where there were multiple children with superpowers. And as a child, I loved time traveling. I loved science fiction. I loved people with powers. I love teams coming together who have superpowers and learning how to navigate the world with that and fighting the bad in the world. And I love stories of good versus evil. So I said, why don't I create a story of these people of different species, one called Merc and one called Lucian, and they're fighting each other over some semblance of what is good and what is bad. And I said, well, what I love the most about this story, Gone, that I've never seen in any other story before, is that there are multiple perspectives. And I said to myself, why not make a story like that? I have a story about these two species fighting each other, but I have all these characters who have a part that they play in the story. And why not share everyone's perspective about what's going on? And just as in the Gone story, where we opened up to Sam in the first chapter, and then the second chapter, we opened up to Lana, I opened up my story with my main character, Eveline, and she is experiencing just living her daily life as a college student who's just happening to go to the movies that day. And she encounters a stranger on the sidewalk and they have a conversation and she feels a connection to this person. And then that's how the first chapter ends. So we get introduced to our main character. And then in the second chapter, we get introduced to the stranger she encounters on the sidewalk. And thus the story begins to unfold itself with this change in direction and this change of perspective. We get to immediately see who is this stranger she met on the sidewalk, what was his purpose, and we get to see that perspective and get to see what is happening that we wouldn't otherwise have seen with just Eveline's perspective. So we come in and we see Emil come into the story in the second chapter, and we get to see what it's like for him to be the one to see her as she goes to the movie, and also is the one to try to protect her when she ends up getting kidnapped by the species of people called Merc. So I think it's a beautiful way to tell a story. I know that in a couple of my reviews of my books, some people have said that the multi perspective kind of threw them off in the beginning. And I just wanted to give a little bit more clarity and a little bit more reason as to why I chose the multi perspective, because I believe it's a beautiful way to tell a story. I think it is an exceptional way to tell the story of multiple characters and multiple lives and what is realistically happening when you have a species fighting against another species. And yeah, I love it. That's the way I wrote it. I will continue to write the rest of the books in the series that way. I'm not sure if I'll do this multi perspective for any of the other books I have written. At the moment, none of my books that I have in the queue have multiple perspectives other than a dual perspective. So, yeah, that was my first book, the Gone series, that inspired the Kingdom of Light. Thank you guys for watching this video on a childhood book that inspired me and my writing journey, and for joining me on my bookshelf tour. If you love this video, please give it a thumbs up and comment below your favorite book out of my collection that you've read, or a book that you would like to read, and let me know your thoughts. And if you want to see more videos just like this one, be sure to head on over to my channel and follow my author vlog to see more videos just like this one. I'm author Octavia D. Mason, giving you the best practical writing tips, resources to build a strong novel, and confidence to write your story. See you in the next video. Peace.